This week's episode is brought to you by Campaign Refinery, an amazing new email marketing automation tool. Look, in the world of digital marketing, there's a lot to keep track of. We all know this. As much as we're in love with social media and the power of social conversation here at Social Inc. and on the All About Digital Marketing podcast, we are well aware at just how powerful email marketing can be. Email marketing is not dead. In fact, it's never been more important to help you leverage your presence everywhere else into the one channel that you'll own, regardless of what changes Facebook, Twitter, or any other platform makes in the future. I've known the founder, Travis Ketchum, for years, and he's been a past guest on the podcast, episode 15 if you want to listen to it. I've personally used his other products before, and they've been fantastic. The amount of thought that he's put into each and every one of what he's created has been incredible. I'd highly encourage you to try their free 14-day trial at campaignrefinery.com to see what world-class email marketing automation can do for you and your business. Massive thank you to Travis and Campaign Refinery for their support of the All About Digital Marketing show. Welcome to the All About Digital Marketing podcast. The show all about
digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Brought to you by Social Inc., digital marketing agency specialising in social media and content marketing for brave brands and forward-thinking SMEs. I'm your host, Chris Bruno, and as always, we're here to bring you the most actionable tips, tricks, tools, and insights to help you achieve more when it comes to your digital marketing. Subscribe to the show and be sure to share with a friend if you found something useful or interesting. You can find all the show notes and more information on www.allaboutdigitalmarketing.co.uk. Lee, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you.
So we're across the world as we are at the moment, but yes. You're in the US, I'm in France. But Lee, you're the CEO of Double Forte, which is a PR, content marketing, and social media agency. And I'd just like to ask you to give a little bit of an introduction to yourself, how you got started, and to the company.
Sure. So I'm the CEO and founder of Double Forte, which was started in 2002 after 9/11. And I thought we didn't be there for like 5 years, and here we are in our 18th year right now. We operate as a public relations, social media, and content firm, like you said, and we're headquartered in San Francisco with offices in New York. And we have people sort of spread out through the United States in the Midwest, in Southern California, Northern California, Boston, and I missed something in there. But anyway, we're spread out all over the country. We're independent, which matters, and we work for companies of all sizes, from the very small to the very large, who are needing us to help them connect with their consumers, their partners, their customers through communication.
That's awesome. And, did you start primarily with the kind of PR side and then everything else has become part of that?
Well, I started this company after having been in-house at Sega, the video game company, Sega of America, where there I ran customer service, public relations, shareholder relations, events, and the website. So
Wow.
That inside experience gave me a whole different point of view. Yes, right? I started there at Sega just in the PR side. And then over time, I took on more and more and more responsibility. And it really gave me insight into how these things are all interconnected. And so when I started the firm in 2002, our point of view, our differentiation was that everybody who worked for us had been internal at some point in important jobs, so that they had a different perspective than just agency people. Because you might have the same title, public relations or customer relations, whatever, internal versus external, but internally, almost everything in a company goes through the PR person's desk at some moment in time, right? So it gives you a very different perspective. So the agency has always had a total communications point of view, but we did start before Twitter and Facebook. So we've added social media to our line of businesses, but the function's still the same, and our point of view is still the same, which is you should have a message that needs to be distributed to different people through different channels at different times in different ways. But if it's not all coordinated, then you're all working against each other. But our primary business at the beginning was public relations, in that it was media relations, analyst relations, employee relations, in terms of making sure everybody knew the same thing.
So PR to me still remains a hugely valuable source, but it's changed so much, right? So I'm only talking, so my agency, we've been around for 12 years, 2008. Mm-hmm. So ours wasn't 9/11, it was the 2008 massacre of the banks. But
oh my goodness!
But either way, we all start in these hard times, and that's something for everyone else to feel confident about if they're thinking of starting a business anytime in the next 2 years. But
now's the time.
Yeah, absolutely. But the idea of PR from my side of things was always, you wanted to get maximum exposure, but you also wanted to get it from a reputable source, right? Mm-hmm, and I find that digital PR, which is kind of I don't know how you feel about that. Some people would say it's an acrimonious kind of term, but that digital PR element, how has that shifted, and how have you seen that really shift, and for the good or for the bad? But what's your take on that?
Yeah. Well, I think, let's define it first, because people may have different definitions of digital PR. So if public relations is the actions that go around on finding people who have influence and a following, right, to carry a message for you without payment, if that's what that is, where they live, everybody's online today. And then some people are only online. And then some people who have influence are only in social channels and don't have an editor, so to speak. So we sort of divide it into the world to people who have editors, right, and editorial guidelines and journalistic standards that they are accountable to, and people who don't, who have influence. And we treat those things differently, and we value them separately, but they're all important. Because if you ignore the people who have influence but don't have editorial oversight, then you are ignoring the ability to carry your message with added weight. If you only concentrate on the people who are so-called influencers but don't have editorial oversight, just for lack of a better term, then you are compromising the veracity of your campaign, because without the oversight, without the guidelines, without the real journalism, then over time you have a higher opportunity for that influence to decline. So we start with the former, people who have editorial oversight, and we include the latter, which is people who don't. But a full campaign today usually combines both elements.
I couldn't agree more on that importance of the editorial oversight, and the weight that brings from somebody who is independent. We worked a lot in the blockchain space a few years back. Feels like a lifetime ago now, but
oh my goodness.
and that the side of PR, as they referred to it, was just shockingly scary. And we were working with regulated businesses who were also dipping their toe into those spaces. So for us, PR meant something very different, which was a case of, we ended up with relationships with people in Financial Times that wanted to talk about the sector and what was happening in that particular jurisdiction. And we would get involved with that thanks to a great PR firm that we worked with in Dublin. But actually on the other side of it, it was literally pay to play. Like, we'll write a story about you and it will cost you X. And it really disheartened me on the side of what people refer to almost as that digital PR. And I'm not saying it's like that for everyone by any means, because there are some great people out there, great websites out there, people who are willing to have that editorial kind of coverage. But it becomes a sort of pay-to-play commoditized asset, which to me really isn't what PR was supposed to be in the first place.
No, exactly. And I think that every company, no matter what size, right, you have to. So I would absolutely, the pay to play piece, if you think about it from, so we have our own influencer network. These are people that we pay for their take on our work, and we have more control over when they post and what they post. We have to approve what they post, right? We don't put a whole lot of stricture around that. However, that's because of our background, right? And it's because we're choosing people who we have confidence in, who have demonstrated integrity, who have been demonstrated that they won't just take any dollar that comes their way. And in the United States, the FTC rules have changed over time to accommodate this, right? You have to say it's an ad, you have to say it's promoted. And I think that the consumer is getting better at understanding who's paying to play and who's not. But there's so much disinformation you can just pay for today to have it distributed, that if you count on that if you count on that pay to play way to distribute content that looks like editorial, you should count on your demise, I think, because the truth has a better chance of coming out today than it did 10 years ago, or even 20 years, and it has a better chance of coming out faster today than it did before. So it is better for you to do less with more veracity than to do more that exaggerates in the long term.
So I think this is probably a good segue into the next side of this. And I agree with you completely. You know, the truth has a way of getting round remarkably fast eventually. And that's something for a lot of people. You know, I think there's kind of been the overplay of, you know, be authentic, be who you are, one thing or another online. And I think people kind of take that to mean try and come across as how you think your audience would think you are being authentic, as opposed to just being who you are and talking and having your own opinions and not trying to change and be a chameleon that blends in with everybody. But for small businesses especially, what are some of the ways that as a firm, as an agency, you guys help for the PR side of things? Because obviously PR has an enormous range and enormous scale, right? So a big company doing a PR campaign versus a small business or a localized business, but those powers are still at play. How does that work?
So I think that, you know, depending on your business, what kind of business it is, really informs your campaign. And I like to, particularly for small business, I like to think about it from the inside out. So the most important thing for a small business worrying about, you know, their marketing and their PR, getting the word out, having a good reputation, because that's really what we're talking about, a good reputation, is owning your own backyard. And you might define your backyard differently depending on what kind of business you have. If you're a service business and you can service companies across the globe, your own backyard may just be people who are like-minded in the same industry, right? But if you're a local business that has a storefront, or if you count on community or whatever that is, or if you're an artist, whatever, your own backyard is where you live, and then you start drawing radiuses, right? You start trying, and depending if it's online or not, you start drawing radiuses. But first, you want to own your own backyard. So owning your own backyard, for instance, for a retail business that also has an online, should be wherever you are operating, and then online, those people who you're trying to attract, not necessarily people who are next door. So if you can define who your own backyard is first and niche it down, make it, you know, find the smallest backyard first that you want to dominate, and then make it larger, and then you make it larger, then you make it larger. If you're always focused on owning your own backyard, then you're not putting any effort against people who don't matter to you. And that sounds terrible, but you want to focus every dollar, every moment, every time on people who have influence in making your business successful, not on people who have, you know, who would never use your service or buy your product at all.
I couldn't agree more. And it still amazes me how many agencies or freelancers are working with businesses. And when we end up meeting them for whatever reason, they're looking for a change, or they're looking for something that they think needs to be more creative or whatever else. And when we start digging into asking the harder questions in terms of, okay, well, describe your target audience to me. What do they look like? Who are they? Where do they live? What are they interested in? Where do they hang out? And people invariably will go very, very quiet.
Yes, it's so true. They just think it's, we'll have a big party and it'll be fine. And we want to act like this other company. I'm like, no, you need to understand, who are you trying to reach? Who's going to actually buy your product, your service? Who's going to come into your door? And that's your own backyard, not just like everybody in the world,
I think this all sort of stems again when we talked about, so when I first started, I'd been working in marketing and sales for another firm, and then basically decided I wanted to do this myself. It was a year after, the public side of Facebook had opened up, and I could see the possibilities, and I could see how these things would help. But at those early stages, the only thing people were interested in were vanity metrics, right? So how many likes do you have? How big is your following? As if that has a real value. And it's been proven, and it still continues to be proven. I think it was last year, an influencer online on Instagram who got creamed across the world in the advertising community. But, she had 2 million followers. And when she tried to launch her own clothing brand, she couldn't make a minimum order of 47 or whatever it was pieces of clothing. And it really kind of, I tell that story a lot to reemphasize, do you want 2 million followers that just don't care? Or do you want 100 people that follow you that buy your products? Right? That's the question.
True. Well, the answer is B. The answer is always B. And I think in today's world, how you think about it as small businesses, the most important thing, I think at any moment in time, the most important thing you can do is control yourself, and to make sure that you own your story and that you know who you're talking to and know you want to reach. If you can control yourself and find that language and figure out who all that stuff is, then you can create a program that keeps getting larger and larger and larger, but is based on, based on making you successful. And from my perspective, there's two pieces. One is the third-party endorsement, which is the PR part of things. Other people carrying your message, other people saying good things about you, in print, online, in television, and radio, wherever it is, right? And then the second piece is, what are you driving them to? Because in today's world, everything has a link, even if it's in paper, right? And you're driving into your presence, and you must have a strong you own it, you control it presence, where you are also telling the same story that is out there in the media. So it's actually that's why it's so much easier to figure out where the frauds are, because the third-party endorsement, a rational third-party endorsement versus an owned, where, what does your website say? What are you doing? The differences can't be that wide anymore, right? And the other piece of that is not just your website, but not your blog, because you should be blogging, you should be podcasting, you should do all these things to carry your message, but your email list, think about that as the first backyard, is who's in your email list. And how you use, because if you're not emailing with your primary customers, the people who already know you, right? They already know you. They subscribe to you. They already sent you. You may not have a great open rate, but they haven't unchecked that box yet. Those people are the closest in, and then use public relations to grow that own backyard by driving reputation and awareness to people who haven't already heard about you. So those two pieces by themselves, every small business, every business in general, we should be covering, taking care of that. Because if the people who, if you have 100 people buying from you all the time versus 1,000 people where only 5% buy from you all the time, well, you're losing, right? You're losing.
I agree. It is a funny one though, and I think it was Travis Ketchum, who I've known now for years, but he works a lot in the email space, and his company Campaign Refinery does a lot in terms of the automated email marketing systems and things like that. But he's always said it to me for years. We met for the first time, I think, in 2012 or 2013. And he always used to say it, which was, your Facebook audience, your Twitter audiences, everything that you're doing on social, you have to look at those as rented properties.
Absolutely.
And then your email list, and the email list is the one that you get the mortgage on, and you own it. It's yours. It's the real deal.
I think the other piece of that is owned versus leveraged, like you rented, right? So in an owned world where you have your website and your email, where you can control everything. You can control what the tags are. You can control what the RSS, you control everything of those. If you're only using other people's platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, if you're only using those, they can change, and they have changed the algorithm at any time. And all of a sudden, your influence drops to the bottom because they've decided to make a difference for their business, not for yours. So focus first on what you own and make sure that that is great. And then put it into social places, but you're not counting on those social places to actually drive your message. Because amplify your message, but not drive it. It's a very different concept. And then for the third-party endorsement, other people talking about you, then you can leverage those things back in through PR, talking to the media, and I'll just call it people who have editorial. Then you can take those things that you have success with and put them back into your owned. You send an email, says, "Oh, we got a great write-up," and whatever. We're so happy that, pick a publication wrote about us, and just send it and let people see it, right? Or you should share it on your social media presences. But if you're counting on other people's platforms to do the work for you, you are at risk every single moment of every single day.
Yep, and it's a challenge to kind of find the balance, I think, for a lot of small businesses. And also, I find when we first start talking to especially smaller businesses, they'll talk to us about newsletter, and they'll say, we've got a subscribe to our newsletter in the footer of our website. And I think those days are gone. I'm being polite, but those days are gone. And when we talk about it, and again, it's one of these messages that's hammered out there, right? Everyone's heard it, whether it be from Gary Vee or whoever else you follow. It doesn't matter. Everyone talks about it. You've got to provide value. You've got to provide value. You've got to provide value. And the reality of it is, you have to give somebody something that is worthwhile handing over their email address. Simple as that, right?
Absolutely. Simple as that.
You can't make it up. You can't fake it. You can't pretend. You can't give people a 2-page PDF and think that that's going to give them anything unless it's the most amazing PDF in the world. And if anyone has a 2-page PDF that's amazing, please send it to me. I'd love to see it. I think Lee would too. Yeah. But the reality is that those things take hard work, right? Especially during harder times, or when things are, weird like they are currently, with everything that's going on globally.
Yeah.
But this is an amazing time to be able to sit down and to start crafting out content. Oh,
so true. I actually had a FaceTime live last week about this very topic. I am, so we're recording this in the middle. We're not going to talk about too much, but we're recording this in the middle of COVID-19. And you've probably gotten 1,000 emails from any company you ever bought anything from, any company you ever subscribed to a newsletter from, any company who's down the street, they found your email, they sent you, here's how we're dealing with it, If anyone, and then in those emails, so 10% of people are doing those well, 10%. 90% are sucking wind at it because they're doing a hard sell in all these emails. And we're doing so well, and give us a call. We can sell you something. And I'm so over it, Chris. Oh my God. Stop trying to sell me in a crisis. Just try to help me. And the more you try to help people, the more business you will have. The more you try to hard sell them, the less business you're going to have. It is very binary. Truly, so binary. And so for myself, I'm in a service business. A lot of our clients are having hard time right now. We work with consumer-facing businesses. Every business is having a hard time, I think. So in my Facebook, in my emails, I am just giving away the counsel that people pay us a lot of money for. Just giving it away. Well, I usually give it away anyway, but because you still have to use it. It's hard for someone else to use what we do without actually doing it. But we're just sharing widely and freely. Do this, don't do that. And would people usually pay us for that? Yep, they would.
I think there's nothing else to do though, right? At this stage, like you said, anyone who's sending me an email with a hard sell or a pitch is basically going straight into delete, unsubscribe, or spam if I've never heard of you before, because as far as I'm concerned, I didn't ask for this crap. And then the second part of it is, and again, so we've got a couple of smaller business clients that have been hit very, very hard. One works in the education sector. Schools are now closed, except for essential workers. And basically, you know, the whole business model has disappeared. So, you know, we had the conversation, and actually, funny enough, because I was in France, I was kind of about a week, 10 days ahead of the UK. And I was having conversations before the process had really started in the UK. And people seemed to sort of think I was a little bit nuts because they were going, you know, well, that's not what's going to happen here. That's not what's going to happen. I was like, it is, you know, I watched Italy, then I watched Spain, then I'm in France, so I'm living it, and it's coming to the UK, and eventually the rest of the world as well is kind of following suit. But one of the main things that I was saying to these people is, one, obviously from an agency point of view, forget about contracts, forget about invoices, forget about all of that. You know, I genuinely don't care right now. Don't worry about those bits, and we'll deal with that. You know, you want to call it suspending it until things come back, or you just want to put it on pause. I said, I don't care. Forget about that for now. But right now, you need to think about your business. And before you start emailing people, either whether it be school head teachers or whatever it is, about whatever it might be that you're selling, and I think this is true for everybody, put yourself in their shoes.
Yes.
Right. And if you stop and think, it doesn't matter what business you're in right now. I can't get my head around one industry right now that isn't really hurting, you know, because whether it's, people said to me things like, well, you know, if you make masks or ventilators, then you'd be laughing. And really, they're not either. They're desperately trying to figure out how they ship, what they ship, who they sell to, price hikes. Are they going to get a bad reputation in the future if they have to pay more for it and they charge more? So there's a lot of complexities to every single industry right now. But instead of trying to do the hard sell or the pitch or anything else, I feel like there's a kind of, we have to just sort of pretend. We have to pretend that we're still getting paid, right? If everyone kind of pretends and everyone helps each other that little bit, you know, if you gave that extra 10% to somebody free of charge, help them out for a little bit more, and just try our best to make sure that as many of us as possible can come through this on the other side.
Exactly.
And that's kind of my mentality towards all of this at the moment, is that this isn't about selling. And don't get me wrong, there are businesses that do have treasury, that do have money, they're solid, and that they're actually looking at this as an opportunity to, you know, realign, to finally do that website upgrade or whatever it is. But even those people, I'm having a conversation saying, before you spend the money, what will it look like in 6 months in terms of your treasury if nothing comes in? Because there's no point in me taking money now and thinking, haha, I'm okay, and then actually them finding out that they're not okay 5 months down the line.
Exactly. I agree entirely. And I think we've had the same thing in our business, our agency. We have several clients who are in trouble. Other clients are not, you know, just because of the seasonality. Just, you know, every client's different. But for the clients who are in trouble, who have said they either have to suspend, we're not letting them go. We're figuring out how we can help them in this moment, because we have to think about we're going to be on the other side of this. And on the other side of this will be something different, right? Just like I started my business after 9/11, it was a totally different market. You started your business after 2008 implosion. You had a different imagination of what your business model could be. In 2009, we changed their business model because the world had changed, right? And every business goes into any sort of situation that rocks their world. And the world can be very small, in the fact that it could just be that you lost 50% of your income, your revenue. Oh my God, something is wrong, right? What just happened? What has to change for it? Or it could be this world situation, which was 9/11 and then 2008 and now this COVID thing. The business model that got you to this moment, even if you had nothing to say with what's going on, is not going to be the business model that you take out of this for success, period. It's not.
Completely agree.
Something has happened and you're going to have to think, and it's too early to know. I think it's too early to know what our business model has to change. But what's not going to change ever is that communication and talking to people and being and sharing and being able to engage with people and having trust that will never change. So for those of us in the PR world, we're in an advantageous position, even if money's not coming in, because people are understanding more and more and more how important it is to communicate to survive. And communication are those things that are not paid for. You're not paying for, you're getting them because you're working with them and you're building trust, and you're trust with the people who you already know, and building reputation with people who you don't know, right? That's not going to change. Our business models are all going to go upside down. Again, this is the fourth time we've had to do this. I mean, oh my God, right? So, because the first time, for us, 2002, and then Twitter happened, changed the business model. Then 2008, changed the business model. Then 2012, then 2006. I mean, oh my gosh, right? So the business model is going to change, but the importance of communicating often, communicating and acting, behaving in a way that engenders trust is the thing that's going to keep businesses alive. The only thing we can control, there are two things we can control: how we behave and how we communicate. And if we don't take control of those two things right now, your business is going to suffer. Your business is going to hurt no matter what right now, but your business is going to suffer if you don't take control over what you say and how you behave. And if you're thinking about, okay, what do I want it to be on the other side of any crisis? But this one, how do I want it to be? What do I want people to say about me in the other side of this situation? Think of that first, and then work yourself back to what you should say today.
Absolutely. And so we had a meeting the other day, a phone call, obviously, because no one could meet face to face. But we had a call the other day with a client who said, what we're now looking at is what the new normal potentially could look like. Mm-hmm. We're going to come out of this, but there will be a new normal. And, it doesn't matter what sector you're talking about, whether it's travel, tourism, airlines, education, finance, business, the property market. I think there's going to be monumentous shifts in everything. And they might be subtle, they might be huge, they might be economic disasters for some things. But, the ability and the focus on change and evolution right now, which, you couldn't be in a better position to think about it because you're stuck at home all day, every day. And there's you can't go out. There's nothing else to do. So it's a great moment, right, to reflect on that and to start looking at it differently. And I think it's something that a lot of people are very afraid of. We've done this for 5 years. We've done this for 10 years. Okay, great. And applause for well done. You've done that. But if you stick to exactly what you said, if you stick to your current business model and try and take that forward during this crisis time and post-crisis without taking into consideration what else is changing and what else has moved, I think you're doomed, right? I agree with you completely. I think you're literally just going to go until you've got no one left or no customers left or revenue just keeps dropping. Things have to be different. And I think people will remember, and I genuinely hope they will as well, but I really, really believe that people will remember the companies that have been there to help, to support, to really kind of care from the other person's point of view, empathy, but real, genuine empathy. And the companies that, like you said, have been emailing us with, I'm so happy I know how my podcast hosting company is going to cover the COVID-19 crisis. Without sounding rude or anything, but in the grand scheme of things right now, that really doesn't seem that important. And I'm
glad that they're still working, and I'm glad that they figured out that they needed to add capacity. But I don't need to hear about it 19 times.
No, absolutely, and also just drop me an email to say we got your back. I'm okay with that.
That's all I need.
That's it. Not the whole
and if
ramble.
You have an interruption. Exactly. And if you have an interruption in service, please let me know about that. But I do not need to know that you've canceled your drink subscriptions or whatever, Oh my God. I'm a person of strong opinion, Chris, maybe you've heard. And I just couldn't take it anymore. So I got on Facebook Live and my staff's like, that may have been a rant, Lee. And I'm like, I don't care.
All right. As long as none of your clients were in there at the same time, you'll be okay.
I wasn't talking about my clients, right? No, but I'm just talking. It's just someone had called me and said they wanted my help on this thing. And then I helped them figure it out, no charge. And then they sent me what they were going to send to their email list. And it was hard sell after hard sell after hard sell. And I sent it back and said, I sent it back and I deleted it all. I deleted everything except the message. And then I rewrote the message. Here's the only thing you're going to send out. And the CEO called me, and I talked him off what he wanted to do, but it really took an effort. He goes, but this is our opportunity, Lee. This is our opportunity to sell. I'm like, no, this is your opportunity to help. And by helping, you will sell. But if you try to sell, you're not going to be helping, and you will kill it. You will kill your business.
Long-term versus short-term, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is interesting though, because I think we're seeing the best and the worst of humanity in and amongst all this, unfortunately. But I heard a horror story earlier today about a guy who has nothing to do with website design or anything else, and has decided that right now is a great time to capitalize. So he's talking to businesses about a £2,000 website to get them up and running. And he's using a VA, not a web design company, but a VA to build basic websites for people, which anyone who works in the industry or anything else is now cringing, because it's not going to work properly. It's not going to have the attention to detail that it needs to have. It's not going to be SEO optimized for what they're trying to do. It's not going to get found. There's so much that goes in behind this. And when I heard this, I was like that. Right, anyone he's spoken to, if you know of any of the other companies, please tell me, and I will give them a website free of charge. I was like that, just on the principle that I can see what's coming next. I know what's going to happen. And these people are hurting right now. So it is the definition of profiteering, right? Of a crisis. They're hurting. They're trying to figure out how to go online. You're going to take money and basically keep 3/4 of it and pay a VA to build something that's absolutely useless, not explain the ongoing costs, the benefits, or anything else. And literally, you're going to potentially bankrupt these small businesses for the sake of a want to give yourself some more money right now because you think it's a good time to capitalize. And I think that's the real, it's hurtful, and it kind of annoys me.
It hurts all of us, right? Because any agency that's out there profiteering right now hurts us all. Because, how often, Chris, if you just talked about before, you go into a client who has had an agency, right? And they want to switch because they're unhappy. I mean, if you're like us, which I'm going to guess you are, you hear these just horror stories of incompetence and selfishness by an agency who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And then, of course, the client now is skittish, doesn't believe that an agency can help them, knows they need some help, but doesn't want to trust. And so they reduce their budget, they reduce their commitment, which means that they can't have as much impact. I mean, all these people who are charlatans, who don't know what the hell they're doing, are hurting us all. So I applaud you for doing that extra line of business. That's wonderful.
Well, I think it's, and I'm sure you're the same, right? You have those meetings. We talked about it in terms of, what's your audience persona? Who's the target audience? What do they look like? And people go blank. But my favorite, and I have mentioned this various times, is a company that we started speaking to that said that they wanted to do something more creative, more whatever, insert adjective X here.
Yeah.
And when we started talking, I was like, okay, well, so you've got an agency currently that's pumping out content. And they're like that, yes. And I said, and how's that going? And they went, what do you mean? I was like that, well, compared to the targets or the objectives that you set, what's happening, right? And for me, this was a really honest and just, almost innocent question, not in any kind of a bad way. Yes. And it's happened to me multiple times. And literally the phone call went dead again. And you think, oh, Jesus, so when we started digging into it, they're paying about $2,000 a month for somebody to run all the social media and stuff for them. And literally, not only are they not tracking the results in terms of, well, has it ever generated a lead? Did it ever push anyone to the website? But not only are they not doing that, but they don't even have an idea of if it's ever brought them any money. They're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And it's something that I've tried to tell so many small businesses, and I'd love your side of this as well. But, everyone knows that they have to do marketing. And therefore they have to do some social media, or they have to do something. And therefore they just kind of either outsource it or throw it out there and just try and do something. But, starting at the very beginning with a strategy, with who is your audience, starting with what's your objectives. You mentioned it earlier. You can't just be pushing people to your homepage on your website these days. People are savvy, and you need a message that's continuous and constant all the way through that journey, that voyage for the client. All of these things are so, so important. And otherwise, you're literally throwing away, no matter how small the money is, but you're literally just throwing it away for the sake of doing something. And it's a real shame. Not even
just throwing it away. You're actually wasting more than you spend, because any dollar that is, or pound or euro that is spent against no target actually has a higher chance of digging you into a hole that you need to get out of first before you get into actually reaching your target, So if you're digging a hole, if you think about it as the negative, that's just doing stuff to do stuff, and it doesn't have a goal and it just sort of does just doing stuff. It's not zero. There is no zero in marketing, really, right? There's either negative or positive. So every dollar you spend, every pound, every euro you spend should be working towards the positive. Should be working towards, who is that person? Who am I trying to reach? How do I reach them? And how many times are they going to have to see me? In the United States, we used to use the number 12. 12 times a person had to see the right message in the right place to, be heard and be connected. Now I use the number 37. It's a huge number. So if it's 37 times, the right person has to see you in the right place, right? If they see the wrong message in the right place, you have to double that, triple that. Otherwise, because you first have to get them out of the zero, ignoring you, or even saying, ugh, don't like that company. You have to get them to zero first, and then you can get to positive to build a positive reputation. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a question of constant messaging, constant engagement, constant broadcasting, constant reputation building. And everything you do that doesn't build it subtracts from it. So you're not only are you just like pissing money into the wind, you're actually having it come back at you on your face, because it's not helping. It's actually hurting you.
I couldn't agree more. Lee, this has been absolutely awesome. And before we wrap up, I've got a really random question, but I kind of ask everybody now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite channel, platform, whatever it might be, whether it's social media or otherwise, for you personally?
For me personally, my keeping with my friends, it's Instagram right now. For my company, it's email.
Always the email. I like it. Mm-hmm. And is your Instagram, is it public or is it?
I have two. I have one private and one public. So my public Instagram is at Lee Caraher, at LeeCarAher, where I talk about a lot of this stuff. And I also, right now, my older son who is home from college right now, and I are doing a quarantini every night. So I'm sharing that every night too.
Love it. Well, listen, Lee, thank you so much. And I think you and I could probably carry on talking for a couple of hours. So I hope we'll get a chance to do this again. But thank you so much for coming on and for sharing from your side of things.
I so appreciate your time. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Take care.
The All About Digital Marketing podcast is brought to you by Social Inc., a distributed digital marketing agency specialized in delivering results through online campaigns. Whether it's content marketing, social media marketing, online advertising, or web design, we've got you covered, from strategy through to delivery. If you're struggling with your digital marketing, get in touch today by simply visiting www.socialinc.co.